Hello everyone. Welcome to another weekly forecast. I'm Ray, your astrologer, and today we're going to be talking about September 23rd to the 29th. Before we get into the forecast, I want to remind you that I have a new ebook out. You can find it on my website. I also have a free version of it as well. It's a condensed, abridged version. That way you can get a preview of it before deciding if you want to buy it or not. Additionally, if you go to the blog on my website, you can see the monthly forecasts, like the daily forecasts for each month. I post them as an article. It's the Astrology of September, since we're in September, and you can actually go and see your forecasts ahead of time. And so if you wanted to look at next week, before the video is out, I take those directly from my notes. Like that is what I make the videos from. So if you haven't checked it out, go check out my website, check out my ebook, and check out my blog. I've got a few articles on there. And now we're going to get into the week of the 23rd. And so before we get into each day, we're going to go over the kind of general overview. This week, there's a lot of communication. Some of it is our past, like maybe even our childhood selves revisiting. Some of it is our bodies just giving feedback to what we're experiencing. And some of the other communication is going to come from other people. Just do what you can. Whenever there's a day with a lot of transits or a time where there's just a lot of going on, a lot of different voices hitting you at the same time, just do what you can. Like, if you can't listen to everyone, listen to what you can, do what you can. Don't expect yourself to do more than what you're capable of. And you can only communicate what you know. And so if there's something you're not sure about that you want to talk about, maybe like meditate on it and spend some time thinking about it, or talking to like a neutral party who's not involved in the situation and see what kind of input they have. Because if we want clear communication, we need to communicate clearly. And if we don't know what we are communicating or why we're doing it, it's not very clear. So that's the general overview for this week. Let's get into each day. First, we're going to have Monday, September 23rd. We're going to have the moon in Gemini making a square to Saturn retrograding in Pisces, conjunct Jupiter, and a sextile to Chiron retrograding in Aries. Someone else's secrets might feel lighter to those that aren't directly involved. Weigh your words before you share them with others. This is pretty self-explanatory. It's, worth repeating and worth expanding on. I love a good gossip moment, I won't lie. I love a good, hey, did you hear this? I love that. And at the same time, I think it's really important to respect people's privacy and to not gossip about things and not spread information about things that are really sensitive or really personal. Talking about someone's new haircut is not the same thing as talking about like their medical situation or conflict that you had with them that you haven't got the chance to sort it out with them yet. Like we want to make sure that we're not taking someone else's sensitive information and taking the weight off of that because we're not directly involved and spreading it and, you know, getting other people involved that don't need to be getting involved. We need to respect privacy on Monday. And that's it for Monday. Next we have Tuesday, the 24th. On the 24th, we'll have the moon in Gemini making a square to Mercury in Virgo and another square to Neptune retrograding in Pisces. The moon will then enter Cancer, make a trine to Venus in Scorpio, and a square to the Sun in Libra. We're also going to have Mercury in Virgo, trine Uranus retrograding in Taurus, and Vesta, the asteroid, in Virgo, making an opposition to Saturn retrograding in Pisces. And so on the 24th, this Tuesday, everyone defines care a little differently. Find out how you define it, and take some time to learn what makes others feel cared for. There are things that people do for me that I appreciate, and there are things that people do for me that make me feel cared for. Sometimes, well, I always appreciate what people do for me, but it's not always, and vice versa. I'm not always my good efforts are not always taking care of someone else. Sometimes it's just doing something that they appreciate, not taking care of them. And with this opposition between Vesta and Saturn, that really brings to mind, what are we doing to nurture ourselves and to care for ourselves? And how are we nurturing other people? And is what we're doing actually nurturing them and actually caring for them? Or are we just doing things that they appreciate? And it's tricky. There's definitely some nuance there. I mean, Vesta's in Virgo, and Virgo is a Mercury sign. It's very tricky, it's very mercurial, and so don't overthink it. Just consider it. And consider what you need from other people so that you can let them know how to take care of you and what you need to feel taken care of. And that's it for Tuesday, the 24th. Next, we have 25th, September 25th, Wednesday. We're going to have Mercury in Virgo making an opposition to Neptune retrograding in Pisces, and the Moon in Cancer will be conjunct Mars and trine Saturn retrograding in Pisces. Unspoken words build a legacy too. There's a time and place to clarify, not defend, where you're coming from. This is tricky. I think with the Moon conjunct Mars, that's always the first thing that brings to mind is like conflict. It brings to mind arguments and sharp words, or words that are really hot, really like a laser, like they burn. And there's also, I think silence can have a similar effect sometimes too, where the silence becomes heavy and it becomes almost worse than the offense itself. And it's like we can't get too caught up in our head about the nitty-gritty details of everything. We just have to do our best. I keep saying that, but that's just what keeps coming up this week. I think in general, I have Mars in Cancer, like natally. I can be a little passive. I think in general, conflict, if you can avoid it or have it contained in like a personal, like one-on-one container, that is often what's best. But things change. We grow, the world changes, the world grows, and we have to be flexible with that, and we have to be honest about where we're coming from and about what our intentions are. And maybe someone might interpret that as you being defensive, but that's where we can have some humility with it and let them know, like, hey, I'm not saying this to dismiss how it made you feel. I'm not saying this to disagree with how you feel. I can see why you feel that. I can see how my actions led to you feeling this way. And I would like an opportunity to explain why I did that, why I felt the need to do those things, because it wasn't my intentions to hurt you. And you can make space for that. You can be humble and explain yourself in a way that's not, you know, digging the grave any deeper than it already is. So that's it for the 25th for Wednesday. Clarify where you're coming from, try not to defend it, and keep in mind the unspoken words are building a legacy as well. So next we have Thursday, September 26th. This Thursday we're going to have Mercury in Virgo making a trine to Pluto retrograding in Capricorn, and then it is going to enter the sign of Libra. We're also going to have the Moon in Cancer making a square to Chiron retrograding in Aries, a sextile to Uranus retrograding in Taurus, a trine to Neptune retrograding in Pisces, and an opposition to Pluto retrograding in Capricorn. But that's not all. The Moon is then going to enter the sign of Leo and make a sextile to Mercury and Libra at those very early degrees. So this Thursday, your body remembers the lessons that your mind forgets. These lessons will be revealed through your conversations with others. Listen to yourself. I think, especially again with that Mars conjunction and even just Mars in Cancer, whenever we talk about Mars, there's this feeling of being rushed, and that's where we can kind of get that defensiveness from, or even that offensiveness. It's just this urge and this urgency to explain things and get it over with and have the conflict. And I think we need to listen to ourselves. And that doesn't always mean listen to what you're saying. It can also mean listen to what your body is telling you. I mentioned this week that we're going to have a lot of communication this week, and that some of it is going to be from our body. It's going to be our body responding to things. And it brings to mind how I was just watching an Instagram video the other day, and there was a doctor, I think she's a psychologist, and she was crying, she was sobbing, and she was like, I just had a yoga session and we were doing this stretch with our hips, and it just like all this trauma just kept flooding back to her brain because the trauma was stored in those muscles and in those places that was being stretched and being worked on, and that brought it out. And it was so interesting seeing the comments where it was like, me too, me too, me too. That happens to me. This is such a common experience. It's so normal, don't worry about it. Take care of yourself. And I think it just really goes to show that our emotions and our body have an intelligence and a relationship with ourself and with our mind that we don't always recognize and acknowledge. And so keep in mind the things that your body is bringing to your attention and honor it and respect it. Our body's way of communicating with us is our emotions. And so if you're feeling a strong emotion and something is coming up in your body, take a second and just think about what it's trying to communicate to you, because there might be a message there, and maybe the message is that you just feel unsafe and that you're scared. You need to be reassured that you're safe. You know, you can reassure yourself and let yourself know that you'll be okay. That's it for Thursday, the 26th. Next, we have September 27th, Friday. We're going to have the moon in Leo making a sextile to the sun in Libra, a square to Venus in Scorpio, and a trine to the North Node in Aries. Don't underestimate how much power one person has. We are only responsible for our own actions and how they contribute to the greater good. I feel like today it's important to keep in mind that you can't save the whole world. You can't feed every single mouth. However, the farmer that feeds 10 is no less important than the farmer that feeds 100. You have a lot of power. There's a lot of power in even just feeding one person, and that person might even just be yourself. There's a lot of power in what happens when two people come together and have an interaction that they wouldn't have had otherwise. I think I've read recently something along the lines of people are potentialities, meaning they are the potential of a bunch of different things. And when two potentialities come together, things are possible that are not possible before. And one person has all of these possibilities encompassed in them, and every single time they interact with someone else or with another situation, they bring something to that no one else can bring, and it's themselves, because we can only be ourselves. So don't underestimate how much power you have. We're responsible for our own actions, and when we can be responsible for those little individual things, we can start to see how they build up and contribute to the greater good of everyone else's actions. And that's it for Friday, the 27th. Next, we have Saturday, the 28th. On the 28th, we'll have the moon in Leo making a sextile to Jupiter in Gemini, a trine to Chiron retrograding in Aries, and a square to Uranus retrograding in Taurus. Saturday, allow yourself to be flexible. Staying flexible means allowing yourself to be open to surprises. I think flexibility is a word that can mean different things during different moments and in different contexts, which is kind of cool because that is what being flexible means, is being flexible. It's not just one thing, it can mean multiple things. And what I want it to mean for today and for this purpose is to be open to surprises. And sometimes that is what being flexible is. It's not necessarily compromising what you have or changing where you are. It's just being open to something else. And I don't want that openness to be underestimated because a little bit of openness and a little bit of surprise can go a long way. And that's it for the 28th for Saturday. Next we have Sunday the 29th. On Sunday the 29th, we're going to have the Sun in Libra making a sextile to the asteroid Pallas Athena in Sagittarius and in opposition to the North Node in Aries. That also means it's going to be conjunct the South Node in Libra. The Moon will enter Virgo and make a sextile to Venus in Scorpio. And then Pallas Athena, that same asteroid, is that I just mentioned is going to make a trine to the North Node in Aries, and Mercury in Libra will make an opposition to the North Node and a sextile to Pallas Athena. And so it's also going to be conjunct the Sun that day too. So for the 29th, performance is an underrated strategy for survival. Allow yourself to be something else, if only for a moment. I think the idea of performance is it means a lot of different things, like just like flexibility. It can mean different things in different contexts. And I think in the context of survival, it's underrated. We don't often see performance as a way to get through the workday. Like I remember one time I had a job that I was just not happy with because it was retail and I was hired as like a cashier and like an assistant or whatever. Like I would help people pick out their dog food. It was a dog, like a pet food store. And they kept stressing after I was there a few months, they kept stressing like the sales. And I'm like, this is not a sales position. This is not not what it is, that's not what I signed up for, and it was becoming very hostile, where the numbers were taking priority over like everyone's experience and just becoming something else. And I needed the job, I needed the income, and I had a conversation with one of my managers at the time, and I remember they told me, like, you don't actually have to, like, believe all of that. Like, you don't actually have to, like, fully be wholehearted, like, genuine about it. Like, you can perform, you can act, and treat it like acting. And that can also go just for, like, pleasantries, for just being nice to people in public. You don't have to like genuinely be having like the best day ever to like smile at someone or give them a little wave or tell them thank you if they open a door or things like that. And that performance keeps us together. It holds a lot of things together that we take for granted. And that's why I just want you to consider performance as a survival strategy, as not something that has to be fully authentic all the time, but something that, if just for a moment you can be something else and that will get you through to the next moment, then by all means, perform, do it. We've got the Sun conjunct Mercury, and that is just like screaming of a performance. And that's going to be it for this week and for Sunday. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave me a comment down below letting me know what you thought. And check out my ebook. I'm not joking. I spent a lot of time on it, and it's really cool. And so I want you to enjoy it as much as I have been enjoying it. Stay safe, have fun, and I'll see you next week.